Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to cover this topic today. This is something that, obviously workforce is the number 1, 2, and 3 top thing on everyone's mind in manufacturing, not just in Nebraska, but around the country. And as we've been, facilitating a number of discussions, talking about what are we doing with workforce, what can we do with workforce, how can we engage with schools and students and underemployed and unemployed, et cetera. One thing that really bubbled up as just a great, I'll call it best practice that's out there, is something that is happening at the Central Community College campus at Hastings and local manufacturers there. So our good friend Travis Turek here at Bruckman Rubber is gonna kind of lead us through what that best practice is, kind of some tips and tricks on laying the groundwork, how it got going. And I'm really hoping that what Travis will cover with us can kind of inspire some, please, this is an open forum, inspire some questions. And, I'll jump to where my mind's at here at the Chamber of Commerce is, and the Manufacturing Alliance, is what can we do statewide if this really is a best practice? What can we do to duplicate this across Nebraska and across, the different educational centers that we have? So I think we're all excited about the topic. We got a lot of people on the call today. I'm recording because, we expect that this will be a great thing to disseminate. So without any further ado, Travis, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself and take it away.
Okay. So yeah, thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. So my name is Travis Turek. I work at Bruckman Rubber. I'm the president here. Been here since about 2015. So been part of NEMAC. I've been part of the state chamber. Once I got here to Hastings, I've been part of what they call HAMA, which is the Hastings Area Manufacturers Association. So this topic that we're going to bring up today is a little bit of a organizational thing that ties the public schools, the community college, and the manufacturers together. I got a few presentation slides I'm going to give you, just kind of the overview, but definitely wanted to introduce 2 people that are on the call. I tried to get 3 experts and only got the 2 of them. And then you have to listen to me, but Sean Hartman, Sean, if you want to go ahead and, yep. Sean is part of the Hastings Area Manufacturers as well and serves that arm. And he has been there on this MPAT longer than I have, as well as we have Allison with the community college there. And so she's bringing that expertise of the curriculum and kind of how you do the dual credits, those type of things. So hopefully you guys will give me just the easy questions and you can really bombard these 2 with the hard questions because they're your experts. So with that said, please feel free to ask questions as we go. I've put some slides together based upon some of the information I've gotten. Like I said, I haven't been there the whole time since we started this thing, but I do have the information. We actually have an MPAT meeting tonight, so I'm excited about if you guys have questions. We can definitely bring it to the group, kind of line those things out. It'll be a great discussion for us tonight, so please ask. I probably won't have the answers right off the top of my head, but we'll definitely get them and can get them back to us. So I'm going to go ahead and share this. Are you guys seeing this?
Yeah, we got you, Travis.
Okay. Are you seeing the full screen or are you seeing kind of the presentation screen?
We're seeing everything, including notes. So you can't hide anything from us.
Yeah. So you're seeing both of them then, huh?
We've got the presentation slide.
Yeah, I'll go that way.
Yeah.
That way you guys can kind of foresee only so many more slides to go. So we'll go.
That's great.
All right. So background with what we have with MPAT is what we called it. That's a manufacturing pathway advisory team. Obviously it's a voluntary advisory board to CCC. And HPS, so CCC being Central Community College and HPS being the Hastings Public Schools. So once again, we're there trying to do that. And who makes it up is representatives from CCC, HPS, HAMA, which is your Hastings Area Manufacturers Association, and every organization of those 3 have 3 members assigned to this advisory board. Okay, so it's like myself with Bruckman Rubber. Sean Hartman with Hastings Irrigate or Hastings HVAC, as well as Mylan with here in town as well, with Dutton Lansing. we started in 2014 is where it started. So it even started before I got to Bruckman Rubber. So that's why I said, if you guys have some questions, maybe we can go with these guys. But it basically developed from HAMA wanting to get more and better trained workforce in the community, right? And we wanted to create that career path to the manufacturing, bringing education and manufacturing together, and how could we do that? So that was kind of the genesis of it. And the coalition grew out of that efforts to improve the manufacturing equipment and curriculum at the high school level. So that's where it really started. I had a chance to sit down with Craig. I wanted Craig here. Craig was the director of HPS at the time of when this started and was real instrumental in it, Craig Katz. And he was telling me kind of what they had done. And he gave me some of the big wins that we did have, and we'll go over those later today, but I'm going to kind of give you the infrastructure behind what makes that up. So that's the background of the group. Basically, the mission statement became to provide a student with a pathway to exceptional classrooms to a career of excellence in manufacturing. So we wanted to tie the two together, okay? The vision of what MPAT wanted to do is they wanted to articulate relevant and dynamic curriculum to assure that pathway that the students are to acquire that core knowledge, skills, dispositions, and required for that successful manufacturing career. It seemed to be a manufacturing career became a dirty word, right? Oh, you can't go to a four-year school. You're not smart enough. We're sending you. You're going to have a career in manufacturing. And it just kind of seemed like that, the abused person, hey, you go down there, that path, and not to where we're going to go. So I'm really wanting to change that and show how that successful career can be in manufacturing. And there's a number of different jobs that you could go into. So we also, for the vision, is to support the instruction and the experiences that assure that pathway the students acquire, that ability to solve problems, think critically, and act responsibly, develop, implement, integrate that supportive pathway, the structures, activities within the cultures of the school of manufacturing, really tying those two together. Number 4 of the vision was to encourage the ongoing commitment, communication, collaboration for the students, the parents, educators, and manufacturers. And once again, I think we've kind of touched on that. Getting the parents involved with it is very important. They start understanding it, and then it's okay, well, yeah, that may be the next best step for our kids as well. So having the parents involved when we have some open houses or those type of things really become value added. We also provide that clear definition of success for each stakeholder through the well-defined mutual benefit of the goals to promote that viable workforce needed to sustain a healthy manufacturing sector. Also want to operate in an organized, ethical, effective, and action-oriented manner. And then continuously seek to improve that pathway for the resources necessary for the students of career and excellence in manufacturing. Again, we're continuously evolving. So if something comes away today that, hey, you guys should be thinking about this, we'll go ahead, update, we'll start doing the best practice, because I truly believe in best practice sharing, and I know the group does as well. So then our commitments of what each member is going to bring is we advocate for that curriculum, instructions, facility, equipment, experiences, where the communication necessary to provide and maintain that strong pathway to excel in manufacturing. Once again, it's all viable to helping us. We're pretty selfish in manufacturing, right? We're trying to do this for ourselves, but we want that education level to help us, right? Use the individual's collective resources to influence, promote, and maintain that manufacturing career pathway. Number 3 is to build those relationships between potential and current manufacturing pathway students, parents, educators, community members, and manufacturers. Once again, getting the parents in there is a huge key to a lot of this success. Then regularly attend fully engaged working meetings, and communicate frequently, provide all stakeholders with opportunities and input, and then build collaborative relationships with other business entities. So we're not trying to do this by ourselves. And I think a lot of what I see, people are creating their own thing by themselves, or one group's creating it. Our NEMAC group is trying to create something that I think has already been created, or 3 other groups have created. And I think we need to stop that and start just saying, okay, guys, here's what we got out there. We have a ton of resources being poured into what we're all trying to achieve. So I think that's a big key part of it. So with that said, that's the background and kind of the history of it. Now I'm going to let Sean speak if he'd like to, or Allison, if you got some stuff you want to inject here, go ahead. And then I have just a few of the quick wins and successes we have seen, because I know in my role, I always like to, that's great, but what has that actually accomplished for you guys? You know, and we'll have some of those too, but go ahead, Sean or Allison, jump on in.
I don't really have anything to add per se. You did a really good job outlining everything. I mean, mission statement and everything going forward. I don't really see anything I really need to add until someone's got some more specific questions. Good job, Travis.
Yeah, and
Allison?
I'll just go ahead and add on the college side of things. I started in this position on June 1st of last year. And after about a month, I was told that, you know, this is a huge part as the associate dean. This is what you're going to be taking over, running these meetings, having these connections, creating those marriages between all the way through that channel of that educational pathway and through into the industry. And so I was excited to be able to meet all these industries and to be able to create that connection, but then also, how are we creating that pathway? Is that a successful pathway all the way from Hastings Public Schools? What are their junior high students doing? We have some Haas machines in there, our welding, all of our STS programs. How are they thriving in the junior high to implement planting that seed so that when they come to the high school, they are taking, you know, all of your advanced manufacturings that they can over those 4 semesters. How are we working with that instructor in an intimate basis to be able to support the curriculum from CCC to support that faculty member there at Hastings Public School? So it is definitely a full package when Travis says that. We are looking at that whole student and that career of, you know, planting the seed early on, having those connections with those parents to be able to continue those classes in high school, and whether that student is going to pursue the workforce 2-year or 4-year, we hope that they have enough background knowledge through those 4 classes and in AMDT at Hastings Public that they could step into industry if they come over to CCC and continue on with their diploma, other certificates, or their degree. Hey, that's amazing. But after those 2 years with us, we hope that we have prepped and readied in a facility that is top notch and one of the best probably in the state, that we are going to push out somebody like Travis said, that's educated, that has got all of that skill set, that's ready to step into industry. So whether a brief exposure in high school to getting that degree at CCC, that's what's exciting for us. So, and then just come on and talk about the dual credit then too, if anybody is interested with that marriage through Hastings Public. As you know, the college is going to have to look at that dual credit situation. So we as a college will go ahead and take those credentials from that teacher at the high school level. We'll make sure that they do qualify to be able to teach that dual credit. So if that student is sitting in the classroom with that credentialed faculty at the high school side, they are going to receive credit through the high school. They're going to receive credit through CCC. So through our early college program, we'll have an individual come out there, and we are very hands-on with that process. We send that person out there. We are kind of in their face, up close and personal, having them fill out those registration forms, making sure that they are enrolled in those college credits. We want every single junior and senior that is out there that is taking those 4 AMDT classes to be taking it for college credit. Again, there is 4 over a course of 4 semesters. If that student does the ideal pathway, they will walk out then with that certificate at the end of their senior year if they've stayed with all of that whole entire program. So that's the CCC side of things. Travis, I don't know if I touched enough on the dual credit side of things, but if anybody has questions with that, like Travis stated, we do meet monthly then too. We tried not to have a meeting just to have a meeting. So when I took over MPAT last year, I was very conscientious of my time, of industry's time. Educators, we all are on a short watch, and by the middle of the week and by then we don't want to have death by meeting. So I was very strategic with our agendas and walked into each meeting with a plan and a purpose. And I wanted commitment and feedback from our industries. I wanted it from the college, I wanted it from the high schools, and then I wanted it from any other local agencies that are part of this process and marriage too. So by the time we meet, discuss ideas, maybe it includes a meal then too. We're typically in and out in about 1 hour and 15 minutes. And a lot gets discussed and a lot gets thrown on the table, but very organized, and we're able to handle a pretty efficient meeting. So.
Good. Yeah, Allison doesn't give herself enough credit. CCC does an amazing job of, driving this, making sure we're having the meetings, making sure we're following up, and they do a really nice job. And our local high schools. Again, Craig has retired, moved on, but he spent time with me, kind of going over some of when we started this thing. He said, hey, the biggest thing is they had to get the high schools up to the same standard that CCC was with the equipment, right? So he had talked about, they had went in for the advanced manufacturing. The costs were like $250,000 at the time for the equipment and $140,000 for the upgrades. So there was some base stuff that had to happen to get it so that it was a qualified credit for both the high school as well as then the college, right? So they did that. They also, he talked about going back to extend this out into the middle schools. They invested again. So now he's got a 7 through 12, manufacturing curriculum that helps these kids as they go out. They don't have to spend as much money. They can come right in, help Sean and myself and the other manufacturers. We got the qualified people already there with advanced manufacturing degrees and ready to work. And I'll speak from experience because I've hired 3 of them. One was right in high school. We got him right out of high school. So it's that grow your own mentality, but they were able to go through, have that expertise, have that experience. When they hit the ground, they came here and he's already running. I mean, he was job shadowing better than half my people that I was hiring in that maybe had experience otherwise, coming right to my workshop floor in my tool shop and was able to design tools, build the tools, and we're using in pure manufacturing right now. So it's a big win for us. But I know there's a lot of work, and it was done prior to me getting there. So that's why I wanted other experts. Sean, you were probably there at the time when we were getting that funding. Maybe you could speak on some of that, of what the groundwork was to get that and what standards, maybe Allison, I don't know if you know, but what standards had to be met and brought up? Was it the equipment? Was it the, the books? What was that piece of it?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the specifics of doing it. I know the state was involved in it pretty heavily. And then I know the governor came out to the Hastings High School and actually visited after it was done. So, it's a kind of a big deal. But Travis is not the only one that's got success with it as well. I know that I think the original founders of MPAT were some people that aren't here, Bob Wilson and Craig Couts. I know that Travis mentioned. Those guys kind of spearheaded, and at the time, Bob Wilson was the manufacturing manager at Flowserve, and they were the very first one that actually took somebody out of high school. That in Hastings High School, we're very fortunate, has quite a few CNC machining centers and mills. So they're teaching kids stuff that normally most people weren't learning until they got a job in manufacturing or they hit school. So we've actually took it to the level, and correct me if I'm wrong, Allison, but isn't Harvard actually have some of the simulators that Haas provides that they're using to teach? Because I know that Scott Barwig's son, Brandon, has been using them. So we're getting the high school kids to learn CNC. And in fact, I mean, not to jump all over the place, but the big thing we've been kind of doing now is not just people that want to finish their education at Central Community College, but Jeff Schneider, the principal at Hastings High School, is really interested. He has kids that come to him when they're sophomores and juniors in high school, and they're like, I want to weld. I don't want to learn how to do art. I don't need a weightlifting class. I'm just need basic English so I can communicate. I want to be a welder when I grow up. And he is curious on how we get kids like that into the workplace and then educate them as we go, because there is such a shortage of staff completely right now. So, I mean, the path that Travis talked to that is really very successful has been for quite a while, but we're actually even evolving to the point where we can get kids, if we can get them working part-time, even if your liability insurance and your umbrella will cover it, which seems to be the biggest issue, to have them come out and start working part-time while they're still in high school. And then, a lot of those kids end up staying. I know I was working at Dutton Langston when I was in high school and ended up working there when I was going to tool and die school at Central Community College. And, I'm trying to use myself as one of those examples of I'm just not out punching buttons on the floor anymore. I'm actually running my own facility, but it doesn't take very long if you have that kind of experience to be very established with the people that you work for, because they realize right away that you came all the way through the program. So I think there's value on literally every level of doing things this way. It's just, you have to constantly be very fluid. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Like I said, we have an established path and it works really well. Great partnerships take place too. The Hastings High School has actually been the most receptive, but we have our other local schools that are getting more involved all the time. And then, like Travis said, Central Community College has been a great partner in this all along. In fact, providing someone that can be the leadership role for MPAT, and Allison actually does a fantastic job. We were all a little bit worried when Craig left and Mark Funky stepped down, how that was going to work out, but I would be willing to tell you that she probably runs a little bit tighter meeting. When you get educators and manufacturers in the same room, there's educators like to teach, which means they like to talk. And I know after listening to me for 5 minutes now, you probably think, well, you have a problem with that. But manufacturers are out to get things done. We don't really sit around and talk a lot. And Allison does a great job corroborating between all of us. So it's a unique partnership. I don't know if it's duplicable or not, but I'm sure the more people learn and the more they take away, the more you can. So I'll stop talking for a little while and let you guys come up with some questions if I didn't answer any of them already.
Travis, can I also speak to our Manufacturing Madness event that we did in March then also too, please?
That's great.
Our outgoing president was a big basketball fanatic. And so we wanted to have just another opportunity that maybe was outside of the norm of our recruiting times, maybe entry level coming into college, any mid-semester graduates, get them maybe even prior to them graduating. So we had a big Blitz event in March, about March 15th, around March Madness. Then it was hosted at Hastings Public Schools at the high school. And that night was basically recruiting any student 7 through 12 in Hastings Public School System. There was a flyer sent out to every single family within the district, 7 through 12. And what we were trying to do is get as many industry partners, get as many outside agencies to spread the message. And we were trying to recruit the whole person. We were strongly encouraging junior high students to come in and see what is their future building going to be looking like as high school students. As high school students, we want to get them in front of those manufacturers. We want to say, a Mentoring Works is another program that's run through Hastings Public Schools. And that is that shadowing opportunity that Travis was talking about, where that Mentoring Works will pair you up with a student that has a voiced interest to come into your program, your company. They want to shadow, they want to be by your side and learn your trade. Or we also had the parents that were coming in there too, that had opportunities to bring resumes who maybe they were searching for a job that night. So we literally were going after that whole entire family unit to be able to attract that industry in our backyard, essentially. And very successful, planted the seed for all of those students going through the program. Getting that exposure like Travis talked about. We quickly learned at MPAT this year, we focused on we've got to recruit at a younger age, and we've got to have that conversation with our parents. The parents are the ones that are going to be sharing and supporting that message to their student, that they know their child. You know, a 4-year college might not be for them. Even a 2-year college might not be for them. How can they be successful and seek out a job, seek out a shadowing opportunity, those kind of things. So I think I probably, Travis, you might agree that we'll carry that mentality over into this school year too, with our meeting themes of how can we get in front of parents? How can we get in front of that adult that is in their life to be able to show them there's more options than, you know, the fast food option. There's more options in a 4-year college. And there's a potential job opportunity while you're still in high school. So that was a very successful event for us. And we're willing to kind of spread it around to other high schools. We want to invite other high schools in. We have an active partner in our ESU then too, which represents 12 schools around the Hastings area. So she's very active to be able to get us contacts and names in all those high schools of our STS teachers. So again, we're just taking that message and taking it a little bit further demographic then too. So another event that we had. So.
All right, so we did a lot of talking. So what questions do you guys have? And Go ahead.
I say, Michael, I've got one. My name's Ralph Kleins with a Lozier Corporation, and one of our biggest challenges have been is what Allison just spoke of a little bit, is how do we get the message in front of the parents? I think we've done a really good job of getting that message out to some of the core local high schools here, and the counselors and educators are now understanding the great opportunities of manufacturing, but we still find it very challenging to get that message in front of the parents. And we fight that stigma of the old early 1900s manufacturing, and it's obviously far from that. So I'd be very interested in some creative ways of what's been successful of getting that message out to the parents, or as you said, Allison, to the family unit.
Let me, I'll let these other two answer too. But one example that I do have is Scott Barwick. He's part of the Hammock group here. He does a great job, and he opens like his shop up and has pizza night, and he does it for the younger kids. So the parents have to drive them there. I mean, that's one of his modes to get the parents there, because the kids can't drive, right? So they get there, but then he has a sheet that he hands out and shows them what they will be making at his shop. How much did it cost to have that education and what they will be making? Bottom line dollar. He shows the doctor, he shows the engineer, he shows what expenses they have versus how long it pays them back. And you should see that the parent, it's a one sheet, simple paper that you get that out to the parents, and they're like, are you kidding me? Well, maybe I need to switch my career up, you know, and you have a lot of that feedback. To me, that's one great example I've seen of just how do we get to the parents? I think that's a real win-win right there.
Is that something that he'd willing to share, that sheet, just to see? I mean, numbers are different each city you live, but
Sure.
I really like that visual aid that he provides. It's an eye opener.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
And the pizza night's a novel way to get the family in there too. It's
Right.
creative.
Everybody loves free food, right?
Yeah, and I believe it was maybe even Sean that said, we've got to maybe rethink the traditional career fair look of when students kind of filter through the tunnel of, pick up the free cup, pick up the free pair of sunglasses, those kind of things. That's that student that's picking that up. But, are they going to take that message home? Are they going to share that, industry partner? More than likely, probably not. So it was creative in the sense of how can we have an event, or how can we have something at each particular industry that, yes, like Travis said, we've got to get the parent there to hear the message, because more than likely, if you're just doing I'm a junior, I got out of school for 2 hours, sure, I'll do that. I'll go walk through every table and get my free gift. What is really transpiring out of that? Are you able to plant that message? And even at that point, some people are going to probably have to start to up their game, and that flyer might be a good opportunity for you to put at your table to, state, these are the perks, the benefits, these, we might have college tuition, we might provide professional development, those kind of things. What is your company going to sell that, even if that flyer is sitting on, the family counter, once they get home and they unpack their backpack, mom and dad see that, or family units see that, and that could, spur a conversation then too. So.
Question.
Hi. You can go ahead. I'm in no rush. I had a question largely about CCC, the relationship with the high schools, and particularly with some of the more rural communities surrounding you. Just a little backstory. My name is John Weaver. I'm actually a graduate from Ord High School, up in central Nebraska. And we had a distance learning lab that I believe had a partnership through you guys when I went to school. I wanted to say first, I'm very excited to hear about your guys' program in particular, because I am actually one of those students from 20 years ago that kind of fit this same path. Went through the traditional, college wasn't for me, went into the military, came back, community college and manufacturing career, to the point where I live pretty well today, and I'm pretty happy about it. And I'm very glad about that decision. So seeing that these types of programs exist within our state is fantastic. But I am also curious largely about how that, what the outreach is to the more rural communities, and if you guys have any accommodations for those too.
Well, as you know, Central Community College services 25 counties within our CCC umbrella. So as far west, we will butt up into the North Platte region. So we're going to go a little bit past, Lexington. We're going to go north up to all the way to northeast and all the way to the Kansas border, and then we're going to go all the way to southeast. So we cover a pretty big stint in Nebraska. We have 3 different campuses, 2 different residential facilities on Columbus and Hastings' campus. So I really credit actually our admissions and our counselors that are sitting out there in those schools that are spreading the message in these rural areas, that they understand they're not going to have a faculty member that's going to be credentialed, or maybe they're dropping some of their STS programs. So how are they still able to have these students, whether it be through distance learning opportunities with satellite classes, how can they still accommodate every single student in that school that wants to take those classes if you don't have faculty or the classes or those kind of things with shrinking schools? So we get creative with creating those partnerships and that marriage with any and all schools that are willing to have either distance learning places. You had ORD up there, so if a student would be able to walk into the ORD facility or the Lexington facility or any of those satellite places, then too, how can they still maybe take some classes that are online and expose those students? So it's available and it's out there too. It's just creating those relationships and having those admissions talk to our counselors and start that process to be able to get those programs and spread the message. So as best that we can, those that are online, some of the area schools that are around us, like Giltner students, Harvard students, Sandy Creek students, getting to the point where maybe even some Adams Central students are going to be coming on campus to take those classes just because they are in our backyard. And so they are able to travel on campus. So we do have an advanced manufacturing program over in Kearney too. So just getting places that are close to those offerings and getting creative. How can we get students there? If you might have busing or you might have a sponsor, if you're bringing over all of your seniors and they have the chance to take English or history or psychology, can that person come in and take an AMDT class then too? So.
Yeah, can I follow up on that real quick? Would you say that, I mean, obviously, is it equipment? Is it facilities? Is it like, what would you say is the roadblock to reaching some of those students in those more rural communities that also, I mean, largely have a very, I'm a farm kid, so like I have a lot of, mechanical troubleshooting stuff that kind of came as a result of that. So there's, a really talented group of individuals out there. So I was just more curious. Obviously, there's the location aspect of it, but what hurdles do you guys run into reaching those communities at the high school level?
Yeah, I would say probably what Travis stated, you have to have that backing of people that are going to be able to support getting those machines inside the high school. Unfortunately, Hastings had that, and we had big advocates that were at the college and the high school level to be able to know that this is an investment that, needs to come into the school. So is it going to happen everywhere? No, but it's one of those things where you find somebody who's able to support, donate, and be a benefactor. I mean, the sky's the limit possible to get those kind of things into schools. So
awesome. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Alice. I'm going to ask a question myself here. It sounds like you have a really healthy routine going. You've got these, what is it? It's 9 people really that show up to your monthly meetings. Is it fair to say, is it you, Allison, that you're kind of the host? You're the one who really drives those meetings. Is that true?
I plan and organize them, but it's
Sure.
Definitely a full collaboration once we walk in the door. So
Great.
We've held our meetings at Hastings Public. We've held them on CCC's campus. We've held them at our Hastings Economic Development headquarters. Tonight's is going to be at our ESU. So multiple people love showing off their area and their spaces. So they're okay doing that. But yeah, I mean, I create the agenda. I send out the reminder about 2 weeks prior to, usually the Monday of. It's just another reminder with the agenda. And then I'll always take notes and then send out a recap of the agenda then to everybody that is on our distribution list, essentially within a couple days after the meeting. So they know what we talked about. If we're trying, like Sean said, we're getting some simulators out into Harvard Public Schools. He was a graduate through our program. He was a 2+2, so went through CCC, then ended up going into UNL to be able to be an STS teacher. So we had that connection. Then we had, we're able to place some simulators in there. So it's kind of growing that pathway into other high schools too. So it's just not Hastings Public. We've got representation from a few different schools. Yeah, it's a collaborative effort once we walk into the meeting, but I would say maybe just the prior to and the afterward stuff, I kind of help out.
Great. Yeah. I mean, it just sort of anything like this needs a good host. And so it sounds like you're doing a great job with that. If there was a different part of the state, even a different community college, an area that wanted to adopt what you guys just spoke to today, what would be the best way to get started for that region of manufacturers or that campus?
I would say that community college probably needs to go create a list of 8 to 12 different manufacturing agencies that are very close to the campus, that are very close to your recruiting efforts. Those are the individuals that, and Travis and Sean, I appreciate them and I appreciate this group because they understand that education piece. They understand I am not going to come in here and I'm going to steal your student after 6 months or 1 semester or 1 year. For them to go through the 2 years is going to be beneficial to me. I'll be patient. I will wait. And so that's what you have to create, that marriage with those industries that you trust. And you hope that the college is already doing that with their recruiting efforts. So they know those industries out there that appreciate a 2-year degree, that are not going to come in and try to take away that student. And so those instructors are going to have to probably create that list. And that's a good place to start. You're going to get buy-in from some, you're not. So maybe that list dwindles down to 4 or 5, but honestly, all you need is 4 or 5 to kind of get the process going. And then you start to find other industries that will pair with that. And then you reach out to your local high school. You're thinking of like your Lincoln and Omaha areas. What is some of your STEM? And I know that OPS is very performance based in their high schools. So, if you have a STEM high school there, I would definitely pair with them, which is, I think, Omaha North. So you're going to get into Omaha North, you're going to talk to Metro, and you're going to find 8 to 12 industry partners that are going to create that marriage and create that plan. What's it going to look like for you guys? So biggest thing is talking to industry that definitely appreciates your college degree, though. Yeah. I don't know if Travis or Sean would disagree or agree with that, but that's where I would probably start.
I don't disagree with that at all. That's absolutely accurate.
Walking through the Hastings campus recently and seeing a Bruckman Rubber sponsored, frosted glass on the side of one room, I'm going to ask a leading question, which would be would you guys recommend, Travis and Allison, would you recommend that it's worth the effort to take on something like this if it didn't exist already?
Oh yeah. And I'll use the analogy that I use here, because I know, Mike, you like them corny sayings, right?
Love it.
But mine here is, when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, it's 20 years ago. We should have been doing this 20 years ago, but when's the next best time to plant that tree? It's today. So if you're not doing it, we need to. We're having a hard enough time finding employees and finding those people. You got to get started. So I highly recommend get going today. We've kind of got a game plan, right? But it doesn't mean that's going to work for everybody, but you could take it as kind of the skeletons and start working it and adopting it to what could work for you guys. And if you get 1, you get 2. That's for us. We've gotten the 3. We're extremely happy with it. Now that's been in the making since 2014 for us here, so we've had years with this that we've been working on it, and we should have done it even prior to that. We're very fortunate to have CCC right here, and that the Hastings Public Schools were wide open to, hey, let's work together. And I truly feel like we got a great team, and that's part of our success, right? That's part of the secret ingredient I think we do share that maybe not everybody's as fortunate with. I recognize that, but if you have it, hey, do it. So.
Mike, I'd like to, if I don't mind, if the group doesn't mind, share some of our good fortune, I call it, the way he was just talking about. Travis just mentioned about planting a tree 20 years ago, and we were pretty fortunate that we had some support early on with some of our skilled trades. And to give you an idea of what I'm trying to say, I'll describe the situation. Roughly 10 years ago, we started a partnership with Omaha North High School. We put in a precision tooling shop in their school because of what you just described, Travis, is the skill sets are not out there. We have to grow our own. Start off very, very slowly, very slowly. Lucky to get one a year, maybe, that came from the program. We were partnering with Metropolitan Community College, just like Central Community College does. They're great partners. Community colleges are absolutely a lifeline to all industry. And 10 years later, fast forward, 33% of our skilled tradespeople now are from this program. I can't imagine where we'd be without that today, without having that young talent in the building and our facilities keeping us running. We call it sponsorship the trades program, and I'm happy to share that with information with people, but you're all describing very similar things. And I just want to make sure I brought up what we're doing that matches what you're doing. It works no matter whether you're in Omaha, Lincoln, Hastings, Scottsbluff, partnering with the schools, both community colleges, obviously, and high schools and industry is truly, I think, the only pathway to work through this workforce shortage. So digress from a little bit. The question of the group is, you talked about hiring people under the age of 18. Has anybody else had luck on that? We just started doing that. It's a little scary, but we have a youth registered apprenticeship program. We worked with Jim Whiteman and I think Kane Elliott from the Department of Labor and Education. And we've got today, not a lot, but 2 current employees that came from high school and now are welding for us very successfully. We want it to grow, but it's a very new program. Has anybody else out there dipped their toes in the youth registered apprenticeship program? Because I see it as a very good pipeline for the next 5 to 10 years or longer, bringing in those young high school students like you talked about and getting them early, developing them, training them. And if we do a good job, we're going to retain them. So is anybody else out there developed that program or working with that program?
This is Dan Granowitz. I'm with Continental in Norfolk, Nebraska, and we also are going through that registered process in partnership with the local high school. And we have not a lot, one at this point, really, and then we're really channeling that towards our maintenance organization at this point. We tried last year through the production, more of a production role, found that didn't maybe work as well. So this year we're trying maintenance focus with the idea that we'll really support this student through their high school career, and then they have an aptitude from a electromechanical degree through Northeast here locally in town. So that's an avenue that we're pursuing.
So I have a question for those of you that are doing that, because OSHA requires you to be at least 18. What are you having them do in order to not be technically in the plant?
When we did research on this quite a while ago, when we were looking at apprenticeship programs, there's actually a very easy online class that those kids can take, that they can operate all the things that you probably need to, because you're absolutely correct. The first big roadblock that we hit here when it came into hiring kids that were 18 or under is when you look at the things that OSHA will allow them to run, they can push the button on a $500,000 machining center, but they can't run a hand drill. So there is a class that the Department of Labor provides that gets them, and I think it's 8 hours, it's online, and they can go through that class and be technically, I think it's certified or whatever, to run those things. And then they have that OSHA qualification to use those hand tools and things like that. So, and I don't know if anybody else has anything different, but that was what the loophole that we kind of found to get through that part of that, because it was the first challenge that we ran into. It's like, well, I can have him run this laser, but I can't have him run an impact wrench. That doesn't make any sense, because you want these kids to kind of start at the bottom and work their way up, not put them in front of a $500,000 machine that can wreck right off the bat. So
Ralph, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe when you do the actual registered apprentice programs through the Department of Labor and the schools, that is an exception, and they cover those things to make sure that they're allowed to be in the facility, and all the safety and all those aspects are covered as part of that true registered apprentice program.
Correct. They'll walk you through it. What Dan has done in Norfolk was a little more advanced than we were. We looked at actually doing a program similar to what he did with maintenance, and it was a little more advanced. We're ready to tackle. We'll pick that back up some other time. So we passed on that because of the concerns we had for the high school student in maintenance, and then advanced to, or proceeded on to, welding. And the welder that we bring in can do everything pretty much except for operate a forklift. Everything else is fine, but we're not allowed to operate a forklift under the age of 18. Once they're 18, they can, but anything else, we put them through the training with the school system, and we're fine to weld and operate equipment, et cetera, et cetera. But that's, again, I take guidance from, Jim Whiteman and Kane Elliott from that.
At Bison, we've been hiring 16 and 17-year-olds now for about 4 years. This past summer, we had 6 of them. The OSHA restriction doesn't really exist blindly across the board. It kind of limits what they can do. Some of you others mentioned some of the examples. The 6 that we had here this summer, they can freely work in welding. They can run CNC equipment. They can do packaging. Just nothing that has to do with overhead hoist, getting fingers and pinched. And overall, it's been excellent for us, getting engaged in what we're doing. The most annoying thing is 16 and 17-year-olds don't want to work over 24 hours a week. So we've had to deal with that.
I mean, I did that in high school,
Julie-
very similar to what you're saying. I mean, I worked for a manufacturer, didn't really have much restrictions. We had safety audits from OSHA. We had safety audits from our customers, companies like John Deere, Cat, Cummins. As long as I had the training to operate the equipment, that was fine. And then once I got into college, I mean, that training had to be documented. Once I got into college, I then interned for the company I worked for in the engineering department. So ended up working there 5-6 years throughout high school and college. So definitely a good way to come out.
Julie here at Balin. We've had the apprenticeship program at Balin for several years and have gained quite a few employees through that. We also hire interns throughout the summer in between, high school and college, and have gained quite a few employees that way. They either don't leave or they come back after being here for a little bit. So yeah, I would highly recommend looking at the apprenticeship program, interns, any way to get younger kids in the facility, and then they see what's going on and can change their track or their ideas and come back. So
with the apprenticeships, has anybody run into any challenges with their insurance companies by bringing in these younger students?
as long as it's sort of, because it's arranged, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ralph, as a school to work. So I think the insurance kind of goes through the school, but I'm not, is that right, Ralph?
I can't really speak as far as insurance coverage. I know we're fine. We're self-insured. We'll handle that and work with them, but you are correct. It's so heavily geared towards the school system. Really, the school system's the one that vets out all the paperwork, vets out the students, helps provide it. So it's really heavy towards the school system until they're 18 and of age and on full-time with us. We work through the school system. So if that helps, I'm not sure that answers it, but I think you're right, Julie.
Yeah, at Bison, we did not have to engage the school system at all. We did contact the insurance company just to make sure it was fine with them, but there's no issue with moving forward.
Wonderful. I don't want to stop us with good conversation rolling. We're at just a few minutes over my 45-minute window, but happy to continue this as we go. Travis, Allison, Sean, thank you for running through what you have as your best practice. I think that what we've got here is a great recommendation and something that's that we could replicate in other places. So Travis, I'll probably ask you for your slides and send this around to even those who were not able to join us today. I'm going to share this recording so that we can, again, get this content out and across the board. But as we've talked about workforce, on and on and on again, this seems like just a great way to connect students with education and with manufacturers in their local area. So well, I think we should just go ahead and call it what it is. It's a best practice, and we're going to try to copy paste this thing as far and wide as we can. So thank you all very much for sharing this content with us today. And I'm going to do the best I can to shotgun this thing all over the state and see if we can get this going in many other places. Before I hang up the phone here, does anyone have any further questions for Travis or Allison or Sean or the group at large before we go? Great. Travis, any other words of wisdom about planting trees or anything else?
Nope, you heard all of them.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you all again. Thanks a lot. And we'll talk all soon. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thank
See
you.
ya.